Hi, good morning and welcome to day 30 of my Huel 30-day challenge. Today is the final day, my weigh-in and everything else. So thanks very much for joining me today. This morning we have come to Conway Castle in North Wales. Gina and Isaac are with me and we're going to go and have a look around the castle. See you in a minute. So for the remainder of this vlog, I'm going to be discussing my past 30 days and my top 9 tips that I have picked up from my 30 days that I've been doing Huel. Whether you're a current Hueler or a new Hueler, this is my advice that I've been picking up over the last 30 days. It's nothing else, it's not scientific or anything like that, so just take from it what you will, and we'll start off with tip number 1. So straight off with tip number 1 is to be patient. Now it's worth remembering that Huel was never really designed to be a taste extravaganza. The designers at Huel invented it solely for that reason, because they didn't want people to be binging on it and then eating it every day or outside of your meal times, thus leading to an excessive calorie intake. Now with that, it's worth mentioning that Huel flavour boosts are a great way of mixing up the flavour and actually making it taste a lot better. But going from my own personal experience, the key tip I would give you is to be patient when you're mixing these flavour boosts. So it's worth mentioning that the flavour boosts that Huel provide for the Huel based flavours are definitely a better way of mixing it up, making the flavours from the original or the vanilla base a lot more interesting on the everyday palate. So at least it gives you something a bit different to try as you're going through each day. So irregardless of whether your base is the original or the vanilla flavoured ones, I would strongly advise that you wait at least 30 minutes after you've made your mix up with the flavour shot in it. This allows then the flavour shot to blend its way into the mix a little bit more. It gives you a lot better flavour, and it's me personally, there's some flavours out there, like the pineapple one. The pineapple one I wasn't very keen on when I first started, but if I leave that one soaking for at least 45 minutes, the product is a lot better. So I would definitely recommend, if you've got the time, to make sure you're mixing it up. So if you're a bit dubious whether this is actually going to work, what I would suggest is you would actually get your Huel shaker, mix it up with your flavour boost, try it pretty much as soon as you've mixed it up, try and take a mental note of what the flavour was like, pop it in the fridge, come back to it 30 minutes, 40 minutes later, bring it out, give it another shake again, have a quick sip, and I can guarantee that the flavour will actually taste so much better than it did do before. It kind of gets rid of the more synthetic taste that's actually within the flavour shots themselves. So going on to my second tip. My second tip is breakfast. Now they do say that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and when you're on the Huel diet, there is nothing more important than this as well. Myself personally, I really like the Huel granola. I will quite happily have it each of my days. I actually have it as well as a snack outside of my normal meal times. It's good because it kind of fills you up. It also gives you some different tastes and textures inside your mouth that the regular Huel shakes don't really give you. So with this Huel granola, I personally feel this is probably one of the easiest ways to get your first meal of the day. It's no problem, it's a little bit less messing around than with your Huel, but if you did really want to go down the Huel shaker route, then what I would recommend is you make up your shake, Possibly, if you don't want to be messing around with it first thing in the morning, you can make up your Huel shaker last thing at night before you go to bed. Huel can be stored inside the fridge as well for up to 24 hours. So leaving it overnight isn't a problem at all, and it also then, going back onto the previous point, helps your flavour boost develop into the actual mix a bit better. So when you're ready to go for it in the morning, you just literally get it out of the fridge, give it a little shake, and you're good to go. My tip for this one though, if you're going to be making up your Huel at night, I would personally go down the 3/5 route. So whatever the volume of water is you're adding to your mix, put 3/5 of that in for the night before. So if I'm personally using 400 ml of main fluid, put my mix, shaking it up with my mix, and then top it off with another 100 ml, which means I've got 500 ml of liquid inside my drink. If I'm using 3/5 of that, I'll then use 300 ml of my water, make my mix up with the normal amount of powder to that ratio with the flavour boost. I'll shake that up, pop it in the fridge. When I come back to it in the morning, I'll then add the other 2/5, so the other 200 ml of remaining water. I'll then give it another further shake, and then I'm good to go. Now the reason why I do that, Huel will go a little bit thick if you leave it sat in the fridge, especially for a long time overnight. So if you leave a little bit of the water out, then you can actually thin it out to your own taste. If that's not quite how you like it, obviously you can add a little bit more the night before and then keep working with that. So whether you want to go up to 400 ml and then just have another 100 ml top off, then you can actually decide on whether you like it, a little bit thinner or thicker in the morning. It just makes life a little bit easier if you want to get out the door. So my third tip now is the scoop. The scoop could be overlooked as a kind of an important part of what you're actually doing, but it is actually responsible for how much measure of your base you're actually adding. Now the scoop is actually recommended that it's a 38 gram scoop. However, I've had mixed results with it over the 30 days that I've been using it, and also the previous 2 months, that if you have the scoop and say it's heaped, you can actually compress the mix into the scoop and you can actually get a lot more than what you would actually normally intend to get. Obviously the guideline is you're supposed to get the bag, give it a little shake just to fluff up the base, then you put the scoop in and you're supposed to knock off the top. Once you've knocked off the top, then you roughly should have a 38 gram scoop. But you can very easily, in a rush, compact it down, you end up getting a little bit more in, which means then when you're making your mix up, it's actually a lot thicker than you would expect. But also then the other side of that means you'll actually end up going through your Huel quicker than you would actually expect as well. Myself personally, whilst I've been on this Huel diet for the 30 days, a bag in theory should be lasting about 6 days, but because I've been squashing it in a little bit too much, it's been about 5 days, which means my schedule, or my subscription should I say, I've had to keep changing it and bringing it forward slightly a few days each time, and I've been trying to keep an eye on that to make sure I never ran out. It got close a few times if you ever go back and watch them other videos, but what I did is I saw I was going to run out. You try and gauge, okay, I'm about a quarter of a bag left now, I need to make sure I'm amending my schedule. You amend your schedule and then it's got time to sort itself out, and then hopefully you get your next batch through in time. So tip number 4. Tip number 4 is for those out there who prefer things that are savoury. Now if you do like your savoury items, I would strongly recommend that you go for Huel Original. The original Huel is probably better for savoury things. It means it allows you to add in different flavours that obviously you can't normally add. A lot of the flavour boosts that they have are all sweet based, so if you want something savoury, you don't really have much options to go to. What I would personally recommend is going for something like Bovril, Oxo cubes, or any other stock cubes out there. Crumble them in, put them in, and then you're good to go. No problem at all. Make sure you give it a really good shake, make sure it all dissolves in nicely. Whatever you do though, don't use the vanilla Huel, because the vanilla Huel, along with the the savouriness of an Oxo cube or whatever else you've been adding, does make it a bit of a tangy, weird taste, and you'll probably end up just pouring it straight down the sink because it's not the best, to be honest. So that's my top tip. If you're going to go for something savoury and you fancy adding the Oxo cubes or whatever else in, make sure you go for the original flavour. You can actually order up if this is something else you could do, you can order up the original and the vanilla. Then that way you can actually mix it up on a normal day-to-day basis. You can have, if you don't like the vanilla being so sweet, you can end up having 1 scoop of the vanilla and then having 2 scoops of original. But then if you fancy something savoury, you've got the original bag to dip into, or if you fancy something sweet one day, you can just make up a vanilla base. So that's probably another good one as well. Make sure you have 2 different types of the Huel, both original and the vanilla. It just gives you a little bit more choice or variation within your normal day. So my tip number 5 is regarding cravings. Now, cravings in themselves, I've come to find out over the course of these few weeks, is you get there's 2 different types of cravings. The main one I'm going to be discussing now is like a mind state of craving. It's not necessarily the fact that you're hungry, it's the fact that you're looking for something that's going to give you, I don't know, the little bit of taste in your mouth from, say, like having some sweets or some chocolate. Something you associate, and it's giving you that mental kick of, oh, I remember having sweets when I was younger, you know, Werther's Original. Let's go and have some Werther's Original. I like that. And these are all mental things that are all stuck in your brain. These are all mental things that are stuck in your mind, and you need to make sure that you're remembering when you're feeling these hunger cravings that these are just cravings. They are nothing to do with me being actually hungry. The other top tip I can give you is, if you're feeling hungry, make sure you just get yourself a glass of water. If you've not had a Huel for a while, maybe you can make up yourself a Huel. But you can make up a glass of water, try drinking that. The further you're going into the Huel diet, maybe you want to taper it off, leave it 15, 20, 30 minutes whilst you're feeling hungry, see if then the craving goes away. I've had that a few times when I've been sat around people at work who've been having sweet treats, like say a Twix or whatever else. I'll sit with them. Don't try and take yourself out of the situation. I'll still sit with them. But what I'll do is I'll end up using that time, and I'll be thinking to myself, okay, I can get over this. I don't need to think about, I'm looking at it, but I don't need to have it, and I can get over it. It is literally just me wanting to have a chocolate bar. That's all it is. It's not the fact that you're hungry, because the chocolate bar really doesn't provide anything your body needs, and that's the thing you just need to get over in your mind, that it's not what your body wants to have, it's just something that you're craving, and that's the difference for the cravings. When you're talking about physical hunger, the best way I can probably liken this is, I've got a little son myself, Isaac, and when babies are young, they obviously cry when they're hungry, amongst other things, but we'll say that they mainly cry when they're hungry. Now, when they cry when they're hungry, it's because they have an empty feeling within their stomach. It's nothing to do with the fact that they've got these mind cravings, because at this point in their life, they don't have anything like that. All they have is liquid going into their stomach. They get used to the liquid filling up their belly. They feel full from the liquid. As the liquid then passes through their body, the stomach empties. They then cry because they want the liquid replaced within the stomach. And this is where Huel is kind of similar to that stage for young babies. That all Huel is doing is giving you all the vitamins and minerals and nutrients and everything else that you need, but at the same time, it's giving you that primal instinct that you had when everyone was a baby, that you've had your milk, your belly's full, you're feeling fine, you can go for a few more hours, and then after a few more hours, you're feeling hungry again. And these are the actual food cravings, as opposed to like the snack cravings that are just the ones that are stuck in your head. So they're the important ones to get over. You'll notice this, that when you start on the Huel diet, you'll if you keep to a strict schedule and you have these, and this is going on to another topic now, but if you stick to a schedule every day and you have the meals at exactly the same time, you can tell then the difference between what's a food craving and what's like a mind craving for something that you don't really need to eat, if that kind of makes sense. The other tip I can give you to help control your hunger as well is probably drink plenty of tea and coffee in the day. I myself, I prefer tea. I do also like coffee as well, but I have to control what coffee I have. Quite a few years ago, I had like a mild flare-up with IBS. I would tend to find that if I have too much coffee within the day, it does kind of make my stomach a lot worse. Tea doesn't seem to have that problem. However, I do really like coffee, so I have to really watch how much coffee I drink within the day. Huel, regarding my IBS, hasn't caused me any issues whatsoever. So if anybody's out there who's wondering, maybe, is this going to cause me any issues with my IBS or anything other similar stomach complaints you might have, I personally did not have any issues at all, and if anything, my stomach was a lot better, I was more regular as well. I would say that everything in general, I felt a lot better from doing the Huel diet, which is now why I've actually made a decision that I'm going to probably try and incorporate Huel throughout the rest of my diet for the foreseeable future. I'm still going to keep the normal evening meals that I like, because I think that trying to go the full Huel is a bit too hard. It takes up too much family time. I was trying to discuss this yesterday, but in the way that you can't do social events like birthday parties or whatever else, because you kind of feel a bit awkward because you can't eat cake, or you can't go out for a big Christmas dinner or whatever else because you're going to be having a Huel. Personally, I think that the best way to do it is to probably replace 2 meals a day with Huel. Have a granola in the morning, maybe have a Huel shake for lunchtime, and then have a normal evening meal. That's probably the best approach. If you're struggling to control what you're eating when you're at work, definitely replace your Huel meals, your work meals with Huel. That's definitely a winner. Me personally, that's what I found that's working the best as well throughout this past 30 days. But most importantly, just make sure you can keep these hunger cravings in check, because as soon as they start taking control again, that's when you're going to be on a losing streak. So you just need to keep in mind, is this actually a real hunger craving? Am I really hungry? Or will this just be satisfied if I just ignore it and let it go by, and maybe just have a glass of water or a cup of tea? So that's the other top tip. Obviously with this one, make sure you're drinking plenty of tea, coffee and water, because full stomach means you're not hungry. So my next tip number 6, is to try and avoid stress. Now, in most people's everyday lives, you'll be trying to avoid stress anyway, but you can never always take yourself away from the situation, whether it's stress at work or stress at home. There's always something going on, so you've got to kind of make sure that you don't let the stress get on top of you, because the stress can probably end up leading to a rebound into your nasty habits of treats on, going back to the whole hunger thing in the previous tip. Now, obviously when you're stressed, people will eat chocolate, ice cream, crisps, all the unhealthy things, the things that are really easy, there's no preparation involved, you just end up eating them. So next time you find yourself in a stressful situation, maybe you're stuck in traffic on the way home from work, or maybe you just had a bad day, whatever you do, don't go reaching into that glove box and grabbing out all those little sweet treats, because they won't be doing you any favours. Instead, try and keep a couple of bottles of water ready in your car, and then if you do get stuck in traffic, or you feel like, whatever else, you can just get that bottle, just drink it, it'll fill your stomach up, and then hopefully within a few minutes time, the cravings will end up going away. The stressful situation might not seem so stressful all of a sudden, because obviously you'll have it double whammy, especially if you're doing a diet, that you'll have the stress from whatever the issue was, and then you'll also have the stress of the fact that you're thinking, I now need to crave on something. Am I just going to be snacking on something now? Am I going to ruin my diet by that? And then it ends up being compounding itself and making itself even worse. So just do yourself a favour, maybe just keep a few bottles of water inside your car, good to go. Then saves you whenever you do get a problem or get a bit stressed out, just have that, and it might just get you through the problems, save your diet and keep you going. I feel like I've just said the same thing like 15 times. Anyway, so my next top tip is tip number 7. So tip number 7 is routine. Now, I mentioned this one briefly before, but keeping a routine and trying to stick to it is really important. Now, this is where I personally thought I was going to struggle, because I work shifts. I'll probably end up working a few days, then immediately after I'll work a few nights, and then I'll be on to my days off. And then this constant change from days to nights to off to days to nights to off, you can never really get your body into a rhythm that's actually going to work, especially for a diet. Now, with this, thankfully, my shift pattern is a 12-hour shift pattern, so it's not too bad in that regard, in the fact that I'm either at work from 7 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night, or I'm at work from 7 o'clock at night until 7 o'clock in the morning. That kind of works quite well, because then all I do is I say, okay, I'll have breakfast when I get up, I'll have lunch halfway through my shift, and I'll have my tea, my final Huel of the day, I'll end up having that before I go home, from work. And then in that regard, it doesn't really matter whether I'm on a day or whether I'm on a night, it's always roughly the same time frame for how long you've been up. So ignore the whole real time of a clock. Just go off whatever time you got up, have breakfast at the time you got up. Then halfway through your day, have your lunch, and then before you go home, have your Huel. This was myself personally anyway for 12 hours. Then what that meant was, because I was working, say for a day shift. After a day shift, I'd be then coming home at 7 o'clock at night. The last thing you want to do is eat too late. So I'd end up having my third shake of the day, probably about 6 o'clock at night at work. This worked really well then, because by the time I got home, I wasn't feeling that hungry. I'd already had my tea in theory. So then you could actually wind down without having to worry about messing around too much or eating late, things like that. Because obviously eating late is also another good way of gaining weight. If you don't want to do that, make sure you try and fit your meal times in at the proper times of day as well. Some jobs obviously it can't really be flexible like that, but I was just trying to give you my personal experience of when I was working shifts, that the best thing I think personally is making sure whatever your routine is, just stick to it and keep with it. How did I get over when I was changing from days to nights? Well, normally that was a Huel granola. So when I was working my shifts, I'd end up working 7 o'clock in the morning through till 7 o'clock at night. I'd do that for 2, maybe 3 days, and then I'd change then. So I'd be working up till 7 o'clock at night, we'll say on the Wednesday, and then on the Thursday I'll be working Thursday night. So the Thursday day, you were still awake because you woke up, the previous 3 days, and your body would still be naturally waking up in the morning. So what I would end up doing is I'd end up having just probably one snack in the middle of the day, which was my Huel granola. So I'd have that in the middle of the day, I'd then go to sleep early in the afternoon, get a few more hours sleep before I went to work ready for the night shift. Once you're on nights, it's not so bad, because then you can keep that routine. But the only extra calories you were having then, in theory, within that window, was the actual Huel granola. Calorie-wise, over the course of the week, because of changing shift patterns all the time, it wasn't a massive gain, considering it was only the one day that you actually had the issue of trying to change over backwards and forwards from shifts. So if you are a shift worker and you're thinking about doing this, honestly, just stick with it. It's not a problem. Just use something else as a snack, maybe going through the day. maybe a couple of boiled eggs or whatever else you fancy. Just go with that. Just make sure you don't load yourself up in the middle of the day, because the last thing you want to do is take on a load of stuff and then try to get some sleep in the afternoon. Makes it more awkward trying to get you sleep. And obviously the diet's not going to work as well. So that's my. So my tip number 8 is exercise. Do you really need to do it? Well, I did set out originally to do this 30-day Huel program with the idea of doing exercise, doing a bit of running, maybe a bit of cycling, trying to get myself into a bit of better shape. I kind of ran out of time with trying to do these 30-day vlogs. Trying to get a bit of a vlog out every day does kind of take up time. Then trying to mess around with other life events that had happened. I had Gina's car, which ended up taking up a week out of my time as well. Just little things end up getting in the way. So I thought, well, hang on, let's try and change this a little bit now. Why do I need to see if Huel's going to work if I diet? Let's try and see it the other way around. Like many diets, you normally have to do some form of exercise in order to lose weight. So I thought, well, if I can do Huel, lose weight without having to exercise, then that proves a very good point. So I might have only been out for 1 or 2 runs whilst I went on the Huel, but they weren't very big runs, to be fair. So with that in mind, I ended up just doing the 30 days without doing any exercise, we'll say real proper exercise. And I had really great results, and we're going to go on to the results in a minute. But I would definitely say, from my personal experience again, you don't need to exercise in order to lose weight with Huel. The weight I was actually losing this time doing Huel without any exercise was actually more than when I was on the military diet the year before last. And I was exercising quite a bit as well. I was going up for probably 3 runs a week, a cycle probably twice a week as well. I was doing a lot of exercise back then, along with doing the military diet as well. I would definitely say that if you're talking about the 2 diets, the Huel diet definitely works a lot better. It proves a lot better results, and also if you are lazy like me, you don't really need to do the exercise. The weight will actually start falling off you once you start sticking to the plan. So I would say that you're not going to notice the weight loss immediately. I myself, before I started doing the 30 days, I'd already actually been on Huel intermittently for the 2 months before. So I've been on it from November and December. Then it was January when I started on 30 days. But that, I think, then also got my body geared up, ready to start losing weight. I would say if you're going to go, this is another side tip, but I would definitely say don't try and go straight into Huel saying, I'm going to replace every meal I've ever had. I'm going to go straight for Huel and I'm going to have it 3 times a day, because I honestly think that most people will really, really struggle with it. If you don't struggle, then yeah, fair play to you. But personally, from my own experience, I think that even I would struggle, and I think my self-determination is not too bad, but I don't think that I would have been able to do going from 3 meals a day to then going straight to 3 Huels a day. I just wouldn't have happened. I probably would have given up probably about day 2 or day 3, and it would never have worked out. So that's that tip anyway. Right, on to the next tip. So anyway, moving on to number 9 is bowel habits. This is going to be a really nice topic to talk about. Now, whilst this isn't the most glamorous of subjects, I still really feel like this should be discussed, and also my tip for it. Now, what kind of tip can I give you about bowel habits? Well, the most important thing is, within your first week of starting Huel, I would definitely recommend you are more than likely going to be somewhere you're comfortable. Wouldn't put yourself in any positions where you're going to be enclosed with other people, like on a train or a plane, because your flatulence will probably end up stinking everybody else around you, and it's not going to be a pleasant experience for you or for anybody else. So keep that in mind when you're going to start, that you don't want to be going away on holiday and trapped with people in a metal tube at 30,000 feet, because they aren't going to appreciate it. You don't want to be looking for a toilet as well, because your body will go through like a detox phase. I know it's probably not the technical term of what's actually happening, but your body will end up replacing all the junk that you've got lined inside your guts, and it'll end up replacing it with Huel, but all the stuff that's been stuck inside your guts has got to go somewhere as well, so that'll just find its way out of you. And normally the flatulence and your toilet breaks as well, we'll say, will come unannounced, and you'll probably get literally 5-10 minutes notice. So the last thing you want to be doing is halfway up the M6 and you're nowhere near any motorway services, because the chances are you will be in a tight predicament, I would definitely say. But make sure you're just somewhere comfortable. So anyway, so that's finishing my 9 tips from my Huel Daily vlogs over my 30 days. I'm going to quickly jump on to the stats now, and what my results have been over the past few days. So we're going to see that now. So on the screen you can see that at the start of this, I was 91.7 kilos, my BMI was 28.3, my body fat percentage was 29.7, My water content was 52.5%. Now my fat calculated from the percentage from my body weight to what the fat percentage scale said is working out at 27.23 kilos of my body weight was made up of fat. Obviously I can't give you any weight loss or any fat loss calculations at this stage because that was week number 1. Sorry, that's the start. So at the end of week number 1, I'd dropped down to 90 kilos, so it's 90.0 kilos. My BMI had gone down to 27.8. My fat had gone down to 28.7, and the water content had increased to 53.3, which then meant my calculated fat was 25.83 kilos, so that had nicely gone down as well. My weight loss was 1.7 kilos, but more interestingly, my fat loss for that week was also 1.7 kilos. So as the scales were telling me that the weight that I'd actually lost entirely for 100% of it was all fat that had managed to be burnt off and removed from my body. Results from the end of week 2, 89.2 kilos body weight, 27.5 BMI. My fat percentage body-wise was 28.0. My water content in my body had increased again to 53.8%. So that means I had a calculated fat content within my body of 24.98 kilos, which meant that week I'd end up losing 800 grams, but the calculated fat loss for some reason was 850 grams. Not quite sure how that works, but that's the maths for you. Anyway, on to the end of week 3. So at the end of week 3, I was 87.3 kilos in weight. My BMI was 27. My fat content percentage-wise had also dropped down to 27. My water content in my body had hit 54.5. So that meant my fat calculated in my body weight still was 23.57. And then that means I'd end up losing 1.9 kilos in that week. So between the end of week 2 and the end of week 3, I'd end up managed to lose 1.9 kilos. Fat loss calculated was 1.41 kilos. So out of that 1.9 kilos that I'd lost, 1.41 was fat alone. Now, I'd actually done 2 measurements here, so I'd ended up measuring myself at the end of week 4, but we're going to ignore them ones, and I'm just going to give you the calculations of the ones that I weighed up for today. So my final trip on the scales was I was 85.1 kilos. My BMI had dropped to 26.3. My fat content had dropped to 25.4, and my water content had increased to 55.5. So that's all good numbers. Obviously, it's showing that I'm still on the right track. There was another quite a big increase, a weight loss on this last week as well. So it's showing that it's really going really well. But like I said before, I don't want to continue with this at this pace because 1, I don't think it's going to be very good for me to try and keep losing it at this speed. But 2, as well, I think I'm actually starting to miss old food. And this is going down to the old cravings again. But personally, I think it's going to get harder and harder the further in I try and go. So if I were to try and go to 60 days now on nothing but Huel, I think by the end of the 60 days I'll probably end up going out and just sitting in McDonald's and spending £100 on quarter pounders and just eating them all at once. So this is where now I'm going to definitely replace my evening meals. I'm going to get rid of the Huel as my evening meals, and I'm going to replace the evening meal of Huel with a normal evening meal. But I'm still going to keep the 2 normal. I'm going to still keep my breakfast and my lunch as Huel throughout the days. So anyway, we are now going to jump back onto the measurements. So the measurements I took at the start for my neck, my waist, my chest, and all the other bits and pieces. So we are going to... So we're going to start with the waist. Before, my waist was 41.5. I still have a gut. I'm down to, you can't see it, but I'm down to 39 inches now. 2.5 inches off, isn't it? So my chest, I had 39 inches before. Let's have a look at those now. Down to about 37.5. Yeah, it's still about 16. It's 15 and 3/4, but it's not really changed. And my thigh, don't worry, I'm not taking my trousers off. It's 23, so I've lost an inch off my thigh as well. So results wise, I'm really happy with how well it's gone. There's been some really good weight loss. Like I said, I've lost over a stone in the month. I've managed to shave some inches off my waist and off my chest and off other areas. So I'm really happy with the overall results. I can't see anything. I feel like I'm blind as the back of my glasses on. That's a bit better. So yeah, no, I feel like I've had a really good result from the past 30 days. I will be continuing this beyond 30 days, but not full term. I've already mentioned this before as well, but I'm going to be carrying on with 2 Huels a day, so probably just 1 shake a day. So it'll end up being the shake for probably lunch. I'll end up probably having a Huel granola for breakfast each day. I think these are very good compromises to be getting on with. If I'm working night shifts at work, the chances are I'll end up probably taking 2 Huel shakers with me. The reason for that is I'll end up having a Huel shaker at lunchtime, and then I'll probably end up having the second Huel shaker before I come home. That way I'm not going to be grazing when I get in from work on a night shift. So hopefully I can kind of keep that mindset going as well, that, you know, I won't go to, when I'll be driving to work one morning, I'll think, you know what, I really fancy going to get a sausage and egg McMuffin from the place with the yellow arches. I don't think I will do that anymore, because I'll end up saying, you know, what's the point? I'll just be loading myself up with a hash brown, which is carbs, and then eating a muffin, which is a giant lump of dough anyway. And I'll be like, well, and I won't feel full from it anyway. I may as well just have my granola and just get on with it. So I think just even doing this 30 days has kind of changed my mindset as well about how much I'm going to eat, trying to control my portion sizes as well, and if anything as well, just trying to, you know, think a bit more level-headed when it's coming to food, because we do really waste too much food, I think, in this world as well. I mean, I've been guilty of it for years as well, but I think personally we actually do waste far too much. I think if we all started eating smaller portions wherever we went, I think the portions would actually end up coming smaller whenever we ate out. I mean, at the end of the day, we all know that quantity doesn't make up for quality. I'd rather eat something now that's going to be tasting good, but have half the size, than eating something that's just like a mountain of food. And me saying this to myself 10 years ago, I wouldn't have believed it, to be honest, because I just used to eat anything and everything that was put in front of me. I'd eat a mountain of food or whatever else. And there's a photo when I first met Gina. We went out to a pub near where Gina used to live, and there was this big lamb Henry joint that was like the size of my face. And I think I don't think I'd order that now. Looking back, I think it's just a complete waste of food, and a waste of, you know, time, and you just it doesn't do anything good for you. You just feel bloated after you've finished it. So what's the point in doing all of that? So that's pretty much it anyway. So thanks very much for sticking with me over the past 30 days. Going forward, I did mention this yesterday that I was going to be just doing a weekly vlog. There will be other random vlogs in between as and when I get time, but I think I'll be just committing more to make sure I'm getting a weekly vlog out. The weekly vlogs, I'll be updating you with how I'm getting on with Huel. I'll be training as well, so and now I've actually finished the 30 days, I'm going to start going out running and cycling. I'm going to see how much more weight I can lose, but whilst not doing Huel full time, which is going to be another interesting thing as well. So make sure you stay posted with that if this is what you're interested in. I've neglected to be flying my drone recently as well, so I really want to get back out with that. The weather hopefully will be getting better soon as well, and I've got some ideas for my channel that I hope some of you lot might find interesting. So please make sure you hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos, and hopefully I shall see you all soon for, you know, whatever else the future may bring. Thanks very much. See you later.